that breastfeeding is the best, for sure. And I'm going to put some example from nature because I think that those examples give us the right idea why every single species milk is the best. Okay? So, let's see. The Moors. The Moors only lactate for 5 days. Because of that, the milk is rich in fat. Because the mommy have to give all the nutrients, all the calories for the baby to survive, right? The polar bear, mommy, because they are always in cold weather, so mommy needs to survive, but the baby too. So they split. It's like a negotiation of the nutrition between the mommy and the baby. The bat. Mommy needs to feed, but mommy needs to fly. And because mommy needs to fly, she concentrates the milk. Allow her to feed the baby, but also to fly. Rabbits do the same. Few days of feeding, so they also concentrate the nutrition for the little rabbits. But for me, the most amazing is the kangaroos. You know, the baby kangaroo lasts for years inside the mommy's belly. But the most important thing here is that mommy have different nipples inside the belly. So the baby kangaroo know exactly which one to choose depending on the age. Amazing. So once again, breastfeeding is the best for every single mammal in the earth. Okay? So, another thing is that the world is changing us, but the table is changing us. Is what we're eating really changing us? And let's see why. We are what we eat. Everybody said that, and nobody understands what is the meaning of that. It's easy to say, it's not easy to do it. And one of the things that let us know why we are changing is height. Everybody here knows that height has an impact in chronic nutrition, but also height today is really understanding in terms of obesity, because we know today that when a child is obese, the potential of height is reduced. Why? Because you know that one hormone that we call the leptin is increased in obesity, but also leptin accelerates the closure of the center of growth. So not only is in terms of nutrition, chronic malnourishment, but also obesity impact hikes in populations. So men, in 1914, the tallest one was from Sweden, the smallest from Laos. In 2014, that changed. The tallest was from Holland, and the smallest from East Timor. What happened to the ladies? In 1914, the tallest Sweden, smaller from Guatemala and Peru. But in 2014, the tallest from Latvia and the other, on the smaller, from Guatemala. So definitely people are changing. Who are growing or who are declining? People from Asia are growing in height. They are taller today. But if you see in terms of economy, they're also growing in economy. Japan, China, all those countries are improving in terms of economy. But who are declining? Africa countries. Who stay the same? USA. Don't say that to Trump, please. I can have serious problems because of that. But seriously, the US stopped growing since 1944. And if we go the change of how they change how they eat, it also drastically changed in the US. So nutrition, again, It's changing this. But what is the problem with the stature? The British government make a clinical studies seeing babies until they grow up, and they notice in terms that the person who are taller, they have greater life expectancy, less preemies, less heart attack or less heart diseases, more educational levels, and they notice that they earn more because they have more social skills. That's the British said, those clinical studies. But something is for real, the double burden. We are talking about today that we have many millions of people dying from hunger, but we have more people overweight and obese. So definitely we are in those situations that is not doing anything good for the world. If we see the latest information from the UNICEF and the WHO, we notice that the childhood overweight is increasing globally, but also in Latin America and the Caribbean islands. Okay? And adult obesity is also increasing. So not only children, adults also have risk of obesity. So we live in obesogenic environment. Everybody knows that. The problem is that we're starting from there. If we want to control obesity and overweight, we have to start controlling pregnancy. Mommy weight. Not only at pregnancy, but also pre-pregnancy, because we know that it's going to have consequences in the offspring. Breastfeeding. Every single day is less. And mommy protects the baby when she breastfed. So we need to improve breastfeeding. Healthy habits start at home. It's easy to pick up some chicken on Kentucky before I get home because I'm tired and I'm not going to cook to anybody in the house, and that includes the babies. So, come on. So healthy habits start at home. But also, the latest information for the IDF, the International Diabetes Foundation, that was released now, November 14th, says that at least a child from 5 to 70 years old need to do at least 1 hour or moderate vigorous exercise. But we give them what? Tablets, games from TVs, iPhones. So that work so difficult to do it, right? So definitely there is a lot of adults that have diabetes today globally. But if we see there are a lot of children too below 5 years of age that having overweight and obesity. Here is the latest information from the Global Burden Disease. It's a clinical study sponsored by Bill Gates and basically released now in New England Journal of Medicine. And basically what they said that we have plenty of millions of children that are obese and overweight. But remember that there is a tight relationship between being obese and overweight and the development of diabetes type 2. If we go, for example, for the CDC years ago, the mean age for diabetes type 2 was 54 years old. Today is 45. So today we also have a lot of children having diabetes type 2. So it's a consequence of what? Obesity and overweight. So prevalence of diabetes 2 is 8.8 globally, and it is going to increase. In Jamaica, what's happening in Jamaica? 1 in 9 adults have diabetes, with a prevalence of almost the double the prevalence that we have globally today. So today we have a lot of people with diabetes here in Jamaica. And I used to work with anti-hyperglycemic drugs. And I remember that when I came here in Jamaica, I don't know, you still calling a touch of sugar. I remember that the patients always say, no, I don't have diabetes. I just have a touch of sugar. I said, okay, that's not diabetes, okay. So they continue saying a touch of sugar. Oh, that's nice. So what is the problem with all of this? Consequences. At the end, childhood obesity brings a lot of consequences as side effects for the children. And if we go to the top 10 cause of death based on the WHO report from January this year, basically the top 2 are consequences of cardiovascular diseases. So definitely this is something that is growing and we need to intervene soon to try to reduce these consequences. So again, environment and food are changing us, definitely. So let's go to a little bit of history, and for me it's difficult to say, that's why I'm going to say it slowly. World War II, because I said War II. World War II. Basically, is when definitely the scientists get the information that they need to understand that something is start happening when the mother is pregnant. What they notice is that the women, you know that Nazis is what's almost ending the war. The Nazis, what they do to try to control more people, what they do is they cut the supply of food to Holland. So, and we call that the Dutch famine. So what happens there is that women that were pregnant at that time in the first trimester, their babies grow up as the cardiovascular problems 40 years later. But in contrary, for those women that were pregnant in the third trimester, their children were normal when they grew up. So, okay, something happened in terms of nutrition that early days when the woman is pregnant can change the health status of those people when they grow. So I'm going to show you something that for me is the best way to understand what is the early programming, because it can be confusing, and I know that you see bees, no bees, and a lot of stuff in the videos, but for me it's the easy way. So I'm going to ask the questions after that, so pay attention for the music that I'm going to play now. Please, the first one.
I wanna take it to anywhere, maybe we make it.
Okay, similarities. Differences? Welcome to early programming. It's exactly, imagine the genes are the words, and how the body plays them makes the difference. The expression, basically. So for me, it's a better way to understand all of this. And definitely, it's easier. Okay, but I think that you, Dr. Carol, have the opportunity to hear, for me, one of the best information I've ever seen about all this early programming. I was made a one lecture or one doctor was Andrew Prentice. Dr. Prentice is a British doctor who lives in Gambia for 30 years, and he was studying the population in Gambia and their behaviors in terms of genetic changes. He had this nice presentation. Please don't get scared for the title, but the title is What Mommy and Daddy Needs to Eat Before They Have Sex. The lecture is, the name is that way. I know I put exactly the same face when I hear him say that. I say, okay, we had a problem, but no, it's easy. What he's trying to make is, or to understand the medical doctors, is that we have to intervene earlier. Because even when gametogenesis, if the mommy and daddy is not eating well, can produce genetic changes. Example, folic acid. It's as easy as that. So we try, even when a woman is trying or thinking about getting pregnant, we think about folic acid to prevent those defects that all here we know. So it's early, because sometimes it's too late to do it. Why is too late? Because, for example, post-conception, we know that we have the blastocyst, which is the 3 days or 4 days after that, and we already have more than 100 mutations after that. So it's something that, if something's gonna happen, it's gonna happen even at that stage. It's gonna happen very early. And when we're thinking about epigenetics and all this expression that you already saw on your tour, on your proteinarium, basically we think that the impact is only over the mommy and the baby, but not. It's not only the baby who's going to be affected, it's also the germ cells from the baby and then the product that that baby is going to have in the future. So we are not talking about only 2 generations. We are talking about 4 generations involved in something that we are not controlling. I love this draw. Why I love this draw? Because if we follow the draw, we can see, for example, that maternal lifestyle could have an impact. But also when mommy is pregnant already, if she have diabetes, if she have excess of weight or obesity, she's gonna change the expression of those genes. And at the end, I'm gonna have a baby with metabolic dysregulation that is gonna have cardiovascular diseases later on. And that is so real that today, the latest version from the Diabetes Foundation says that this month. So definitely now the science is saying that we have to try to control those factors to try to reduce obesity. We are only thinking about obesity, thinking about sugar and what we're giving daily basis to a child. But we are forgetting that the child can receive programmed to be obese since mommy get pregnant and before that. Okay? So heritage, environment, I can say both. We have now genes, but we also have environment that are not helping us to have children that do not have these consequences of overweight and obesity. So let's go to the expert. I call the breast milk the expert because it's the perfection. So what mommy says, what the mommy have to say. When mommy says that when you started breast milk, you have a concentration, higher concentration of protein that mommy start to drop few weeks after that. So mommy drops the amount of protein in breast milk. That number means the percentage of protection that breastfeeding brings to the baby against obesity. It's quite high. So mommy protect the baby against obesity. But what happened when we compare the amount of protein, breast milk, comparing with infant formulas? When we see infant formulas in different stages, the stage 1, for example, have amount of protein surrounding 2.1, 2.3 more or less. The stage 2 have 2.5 more or less, and the stage 3 of cow's milk is over 3. Okay, we have a problem. Because mommy drops protein and mommy is protecting against obesity, so seriously, we're having a problem. And when we compare infant formulas with and without optimized protein, what we get is an excess of protein in the range of the blue when mommy is still dropping the protein. And it starts as early as 3 months of age. And we call that growth acceleration hypothesis. That hypothesis says that if a baby is gaining weight so fast in early days after birth, the baby is going to have changes in metabolic expression. And we can expect that that baby develops some cardiovascular and metabolic consequences later in life. Here is a clinical evidence that I really love, because compare low protein, high protein infant formulas against the standard, gold standard, which is the breast milk. And we can see that after 3 months, the babies that have low protein and breastfeeding start to drop the weight for length, but the babies that have high protein infant formulas, even when they drop, there is a statistical differences between them in terms of weight for length. But let's talk about this concept, which is adiposity. Adiposity, you know that when the baby is between 1 year, 2 years of age, they look Michelin. They look chubby, nice. Everybody loves them. Those cheeks look good. Yeah. But suddenly, that stopped. Because in those 2 first years of life, the fat cells suffer from hypertrophy. But after that, between 2 years of age and almost 6 years of age, they freeze. And what the baby do is grow in heights. So they look slimmer, right? But guess what? At 6 years, more or less, they suffer for something that we call adiposity rebound. That means that the fat cells reactivate again and they start to grow in number, hyperplasia, and they start to grow in sizes, hypertrophy. So the baby starts to grow back again the fat cells. Okay? Okay, what is the problem with that? Roland Cachera, and I really encourage you to Google this woman, because she was the one who discovered adiposity rebound, and definitely she has plenty of clinical evidence. She is a global authority in adiposity rebound, and what she said in their clinical evidence is basically that depending in how early or how late the baby or the child do the rebound, they have more tendency of being obese or not. In other words, is a child, even when they receive the rebound, obese or not, is the child have an earlier rebound, is going to be or have higher possibility of being obese later on, or if the baby or the children have a late rebound, that child is going to be normal weight. Okay, what accelerates this rebound? Amount of protein. And today our children are receiving 4 times more protein than they used to do it years ago. Okay? So we have a serious problem. So if we see here, this row, what is going on today with the nutrition with the children, we're giving excess of protein, you already know in the proteinarium tour, that can increase the insulin growth factor 1. But something that we are doing too is fat restriction. The problem with the fat restriction early in life is that we promote decreasing leptin. And when we decrease the leptin, we're going to create leptin resistance, and at the end the leptin is going to start to increase. And who have increase of leptin? Obesity. So we increase the possibility of obesity, and the expert gives more fat than protein. Mommy's milk is rich in fat, less protein. So the nature is telling me that mommy milk is not that way because mommy decided to do it. It's because it's perfect for the human beings. But guess what? Today we know too that the anemia, ferropenic anemia in obesity is not because they eat wrong, it's because the leptin levels. Because the leptin levels impair the absorption of iron at intestine level. So leptin is quite important today in terms of that. Okay, if I want to summarize all the things that I said before, this is the perfect draw. 3 critical periods for the lifespan of the child is, first one, high mommy, body mass index, high weight gain in pregnancy, and fast weight gain in childhood, early days. Then, early adiposity rebound, and later, early pubertal development. Guess what? Who developed puberty earlier? Obesity. So everything is linked. Nothing is separate. Everything is connected. So, if we compare low protein infant formula with high protein infant formula, the study demonstrated that after 6 years of age, the baby is still having a right body mass index when we compare it with the red line, which is the high protein content. But something caught my attention, and we're talking about 6 years of age, which is rebound. The Zurich study says that if the baby gets body mass index that is as overweight and also as or obese, is gonna keep the body mass index in the 60% when they grow up. So it's gonna be the obese adult at the end, but also the Lance study said early rebound, protein, more obesity. And guess what? Children are at school, they move less. So they are not losing calories, moving, and we are not helping with the tablets. You saw that. You saw on your videos the early protein hypothesis created by Dr. Kolesko. And basically what we know is that the excess of protein produces amino acids that stimulate the release of insulin. And everybody knows that insulin is like a growth hormone. So at the end, what we got is early weight gain and a lot of fat tissue. But something really scared me is this clinical study, which was released in the Journal of Pediatric Research, but also was released in the Journal of American Heart Association. So when I saw a pediatric a study in American Journal of Heart, I said, what is going on with this study? So I read it. So basically, what this study demonstrated at that is high protein intake in the first year of life not only increase the body mass index as expected, the weight gain, but also because the insulin growth factor 1 is a pro-inflammatory molecule, also reduce the heart capacity, reducing the ejection fraction, but also the shortening fraction from the muscle of the heart. So now even cardiologists are evaluating the excess of protein early in life, I mean first year of life. So we're talking, this looks dramatic, but really, let's talk about this. Today we're asking, or we are putting on the labels of the product we are buying, we are putting the amount of gram of sugar, the amount of sodium, the amount of saturated fat, whatever. Okay. But my question here is, think twice. Because those are part of obesogenic environment, and we have to take care of them. Agree. But we are not seeing things that are changing the tendency of being in a healthy way early in life. I mean, protein. Nobody is thinking about the excess of protein as a consequence of obesity later on. Okay? So, a process for modifying this protein to allow to make some changes is called optimization. For me, it's an art of observation, but also adaptation. So basically at the end, what we have is two things. Quality of the protein that allows to reduce the quantity of the protein, as mommies do. So what is noticed is that there is an oversupply of some amino acids, but there's also some amino acids that are missing when we try to match human milk with cow's milk. Remember that cows are adults 2 years. We are not adults even 30 years later. So definitely we have to modify, because cow's milk have 3 times more protein than human milk. So we have to modify that if we want to try to reduce this situation. So that is observation. So we decide to intervene. So what we do is adapt it. So we move molecules from the cow's milk source, trying to reduce the amino acids that are increased and increase those that are decreased. And when we make an aminogram, what we notice in pink is human milk and in blue is the optimization. And what we notice is almost the perfect match in terms of insulinogenic amino acid. So we did it. So we definitely got the point to get a high quality protein to allow me to reduce it to 1.8 as human milk do. Study says that is a protection not only 2 years but also 6 years after that. And there is less body mass index when you compare it with high protein infant formulas, and the risk of obesity is reduced almost 2.5, but also there is a obesity risk lower in almost 6%. And suddenly you can ask, okay, I'm reducing protein, baby's growth because of protein. What is going on with the growth and development? Dr. Dominic made this clinical trial last year, and basically what he demonstrated are that the children still growing nicely at the Hood standards in length, in height, in hair circumference, in body mass index. And he closed this clinical with the conclusion that the babies who eat these weight-based proteins basically have a good growth based on good standards. So again with my music, funny way to understand epigenetics. Protein for me is the art of playing the song with the right rhythm, and definitely the best time machine is a good song. Thank you so much for your attention.